Hello and welcome to the Homebrewery. I am Garion Reaver. In this series I talk about homebrewed content for Dungeons & Dragons, mostly that I've written, evaluating, explaining and demonstrating it. Today I'm looking at the Plaguebringer Warlock Patron. I'm also joined by my assistant Goliath, who is modelling the Plaguebringer Warlock. There are many powerful beings in the multiverse of D&D that wish to see the world descend into death and disease. Creatures like hags, demons such as Cybriexes and Wastroliths, devils like Amnizus, and even things like green great worms. All of these and more could have the power and inclination to grant powers to a warlock. It can be dangerous striking a bargain with an entity such as these, but the rewards, being free from sickness even if the world around you has to wither for you to get it. The full write-up of this subclass is linked as a Google Doc in the description. Feel free to read it in its entirety, but I will be going through the major points in this video demonstrated by my assistant Goliath. Here's a quick look at the expanded spell list, but I will address these more later in the video. For the first level spells, there is Detect Poison and Disease and Ray of Sickness. Admittedly, detecting poison probably won't be worth use of a slot, or perhaps even a spell choice, but I had to include it. To me it just makes sense that they have the capacity to do this. Ray of Sickness gives you a scaling, ranged poison spell that will become increasingly useful in a few levels' time. Before we get on to the central ability of the Plaguebringer, let's quickly look at the second thing you get at first level, Plague Aspirant. Right off the bat you have resistance to poison damage as well as advantage on all saves against being poisoned or diseased. Thematically this just makes sense. It was probably a large part of the reason you made the deal. For the main thing however, let's go straight to Goliath in the field. He's been ambushed by bandits. Or he ambushed them, it's hard to tell. Anyway, the important thing is it's his turn and he's going to use the gift of his patron, Emerging Blight. As an action, he points to a spot on a surface he can see within 60 feet, and the blight spreads. Spreads to a 10-foot radius to be exact. A 10-foot radius sphere. Within this blight, the ground warps, plants wither, and creatures sicken. The ground becomes difficult terrain, making it harder to escape, but that's not all. Any creature, such as these bandits, that start their turn within the blight must pass a Constitution save against your Warlock's spell save DC. As a standard human using the standard array, Goliath has a spell DC of 13. Looks like a few of the bandits have failed their saves, meaning they take poison damage equal to 1d8 plus your Warlock level. In this case, 7. The bandits that failed are also poisoned until they end their turn outside of the blight. That means the one with the crossbow gets disadvantage on his attack roll to shoot Goliath. Oh, that bush is an awakened shrub. Okay, Goliath didn't see that. But as it starts its turn inside the blight, it also rolls the save. However, being a plant creature, it is extra susceptible to the blight. It gets disadvantage on the save. Skipping ahead a bit, the bandits have closed in and Goliath wants to pop his blight again. That sounds wrong. Goliath wants to use the blight again. Luckily, he can use it a number of times equal to his proficiency bonus, which is 2 at first level, and he just vroom, right at his feet. But no fear, you are immune to your own blight. You're not slowed by the terrain, and you automatically pass the save. You'll notice that he now has 2 active. Each blight lasts for 1 minute unless Goliath ends it early, and they do not require concentration. You can have multiple going at once. But a creature can only be affected by 1 per turn. Emerging Blight is heavily inspired by the Cybriex's contamination effect, and it is the main focus of this subclass's abilities. Skipping much further ahead, Goliath has reached 6th level. At this point you get a round of buffs for your first level features. Instead of a Plague Aspirant, you are now a Plague Adherent, making you immune to disease and poison. Poison damage, the poisoned condition, all diseases. Although for some this might be the whole reason for dealing with this patron, it's certainly not the pinnacle of their gifts. Before we go on to the improvements to the Blight, let's have a quick look at the additional spells. At 3rd level, when 2nd level spells are unlocked, you get Blindness, Deafness, and Protection from Poison added to the Warlock spell list. Blindness, Deafness does scale with the spell slot, making it potentially dangerous, but Protection from Poison is another that's there because it makes sense. Not every added spell needs to be a game changer, but with the limited number they can choose, this one might be a waste. I'd actually recommend learning Hold Person and similar spells. The longer you can keep someone in your blight, the better. At 5th level, when you get 3rd level spells, the two added to the list are Bestow Curse and Stinking Cloud. Again, only one of these scales, but thematically they're both perfect. We join Goliath, this time in a mansion, facing bandits again. Are they the same bandits? Doesn't matter. Goliath points and unleashes the blight, the size of which has increased to a 20-foot radius. Uh-oh, seems that rug was in fact a rug of smothering. Even the bandit looks surprised. It starts its turn inside the blight, but unfortunately it is immune to poison damage and the poisoned condition. Luckily, at 6th level, Goliath has gained Corrosive Blight. What this means is any poison damage dealt by the blight or by his warlock spells, such as Stinking Cloud, also counts as acid damage for purposes of circumventing resistance and immunity to poison. That sounds complex, but basically, if the target is immune to poison, the damage is treated as acid. This damage isn't amplified by vulnerability to acid, it is just a way of getting around resistance and immunity to poison. It's essentially a compulsory part of all of these subclasses of making poison viable due to how many things have resistance or immunity. Lore-wise, the poison sears like acid, but not enough to actually be acid damage. Anyway, because of this, the Rug of Smothering can be hurt by the Blight, and by increasing his Charisma to 18 at 4th level, along with his 6th level prof bonus, Goliath's spell save DC has gone up to 15 as well. Jumping further on to 10th level, you get additional improvements to the Blight. Before that, let's talk about the final 2 pairs of added spells. To be frank, there was not a lot of choice of 4th level spells to add. You get these at Warlock 7th level. There was very little that fit the poison disease theme. I went for Confusion and Vitriolic Sphere. Confusion you can flavour like a disease delirium, and it does sort of scale. Vitriolic Sphere sort of leans into the acid side. It scales with level, but is not really an angle I wanted for this. I just thought it fit more than vines or insects. Maybe giant insect would have been better. The final pair, however, which are 5th level spells you get at 9th Warlock level, are Cloudkill and Contagion. These are basically souped up versions of the spells you get at 5th level, and like them, fit perfectly. Only Cloudkill scales, but Contagion is just such a cool idea. We join Goliath in another ambush by bandits. Why do they hate him so much? There are a lot of crossbows pointed at him. He immediately releases the Blight, which, at 10th level, has increased to a 30-foot radius. He also increased his Charisma to 20 at 8th level, which brings his Warlock spell DC to 17. To make use of that, he now has Debilitating Blight. The damage the Blight deals is now Warlock level plus 2d8, up from 1d8, and any creature that fails the con save is blinded, in addition to poisoned. What you have here is a large area denial that poisons, blinds, and hurts anyone who steps in it. Beware, this does affect your allies. Only you get the immunity to your own Blight. At this point, at 10th level, your prof bonus allows you to use this 4 times per long rest. You could spam it and fill the world with Blight. Just make sure you don't end up blinding and killing your own team. But hey, maybe your patron would like that. For the final feature of this patron, we skip ahead to 14th level. At this point, the Blight is basically part of you. Going straight to Goliath in the field, he has taken the fight to the bandit base. He releases the Blight, but at 14th level it is pathological. This means, instead of selecting a point on a surface, Goliath can choose to center the Blight on himself. If he does so, the Blight moves with him. Whether he chooses to center it on himself or elsewhere, the duration of the Blight increases from 1 minute to 10 minutes. And finally, as a sick gift from his patron, the first time he enters a specific use of the Blight, including if he's within the radius when it appears, he gains temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus his Warlock level. Note it's the first time he enters a specific use of the Blight. That means the first time he steps from one Blight into another, it refreshes his temporary hit points. I hope the Blight in its ascending power is a suitable core feature for the Warlock. It might possibly be a bit too strong with the large area, lack of concentration, and ability to spam it, but I'm hoping that the risk to allies sort of offsets that. Can't spam it if you're worried about hurting your friends, but I also don't want it to be unusable because of that risk. Overall, I like the idea of the patron's influence killing the land where it emerges. Plus, the Blight works independent of everything but Warlock's spell save DC, so you can pick whatever else you want. It's not fully dependent on a certain stat or weapon for everything. And that is everything for the Plaguebringer Warlock Patron. I hope you like what you've seen. Please feel free to try this out yourself in a game. I'll really want to know how it goes. If you repost any of this, please make sure you link back here, and if you have any feedback, I'm open to it as long as you're polite. I'm sure that with your help I can improve this subclass. Thank you very much for watching the Homebrewery, thank you to my assistant Goliath, and make sure you subscribe to Garion Tabletop for more D&D content. I will catch you later.